All right, this is a lesson on the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution started in 1790 and lasted until 1837. Now, there's a couple of terms I want you to be familiar with. These are going to be written in red. These terms will be in our lesson today and in the pages that you'll be reading. First of all, textile, that's cloth or fabric. Okay, you're going to need to be familiar with that. Demand. Demand is the amount of something that people want to buy at a given price. Supply. That is the amount of something people want to sell at a given price. Okay. All right. A few more terms. Mass production. Mass production means making many products at once. Productivity means the amount of goods and services produced by workers in a certain amount of time. Now, these terms you're going to need to know in our lesson. Now, the Industrial Revolution begins around late 1700s. In the early 1700s, cloth, tools, and furniture, and all those items were made by hand. There were no machines around at this time. But over the 1700s, things began to change and people create new inventions. In the 1800s, we start to see that change take place, and we have machines. And it says machines were used to make the goods. So instead of making cloth and tools and furniture by hand, we now have machines that will do that for us. All right, the first person we need to talk about is Eli Whitney. In 1793, Eli Whitney invents the cotton engine, or it's going to be referred to as the cotton gin. It had wire teeth that cleaned cotton very quickly. Now, an interesting thing about Eli Whitney is that he was from up north, and he came down south to visit a friend of his that owned a cotton plantation. After touring the plantation with his friend, he noticed that his friend had lots of slaves that did all the work for him. And one of the things that they had to do was, after the slaves had picked the cotton field, they brought all the cotton into the barn, and they would dump it out, and there were slaves sitting there that had to pull the seed out of each piece of cotton and then put it in a basket. Now, this takes forever. And so Eli Whitney was not really a big fan of slavery, and he thought, well, if I could create some kind of tool or machine that would pull the seed out of the cotton quicker, maybe there won't be a need for slaves, and the plantation owner could do this on their own. So he thought that this would end the need for slaves. Now, actually what it does, though, is that it increases the supply of cotton. Now, what this means is the slaves are now cleaning the cotton, and they're doing it a lot quicker. And so because they can clean this cotton faster, more people are wanting, farmers could now grow more cotton and produce that. So his invention, the cotton gin or cotton engine, doesn't do what he hoped it would do. It cleans the seeds faster, but the farmers still need more slaves to do more work because there's a bigger demand for cotton. All right. Eli Whitney was also hired by the U.S. government to make 10,000 guns for the Army. Now, he does this by using a term called mass production, which means making many products at once. Now, later on in a few lessons in 5th grade, you're going to be learning about mass production. This is a term that we still use today in manufacturing. For example, automobile companies can mass produce or make many numbers of cars by using machines, and these machines make these cars quickly. All right. Also, during this lesson or in this time, we learn about Francis Cabot Lowell in 1814. He builds a mill near Boston, Massachusetts. Now, this mill does a couple of things. It has this cotton spinning machine and power looms. All right. So now this huge factory, what they can do is take this cotton. This is the first time in history of the world that a machine takes cotton and it can clean the seeds out of it. And not only do that, but it can also weave it into cloth. Now, this machine or this mill is located near a river. And it's so popular, it does so well that they produce about 30 miles of cloth per day. Now, that's a lot of cloth in one day. And so this idea of building near a river and using the water to help run the machines becomes very popular. And in the South during this time, we see lots of factories pop up near rivers because they start to use water to help operate their machines. Okay. Now, machines are going to bring change. For many girls and young women during this time, they leave their homes and they go work in the cotton factories or cotton spinning factories in the Northeast. Now, they're going to do this for many reasons. One of the first things, or the main things, is they want to go earn extra money for themselves and for their family. Many of these young ladies were living in areas where they were extremely poor and their families didn't have a lot of money, so this is a way that they could make money for themselves and contribute to their family. Now, their work day started at 5 o'clock in the morning and ended at 7. They had 1 hour of free time each day. Okay? Somehow or the other, they found time to go take classes and to receive their education that they needed. I read one place that said that many of the girls were the age of 10 working in these factories. So could you imagine being 10 years old and leaving your family to go to a part of the country you've never been to before and work in factories? But that's what a lot of families had to do. Okay, next, there's going to be changes that take place on the farm. Cyrus Mccormick, in 1831, he builds a horse-drawn reaper, which greatly reduces the amount of time to cut and harvest wheat. Now, farmers don't have to do this by hand anymore. They can use their reaper that McCormick has invented and cut the wheat and harvest it by themselves a lot faster. John Deere is also, John Deere becomes a popular name during this time. In 1837, he is a blacksmith, and he invents a steel plow. Now, this plow is used out in the middle part of our country and other places to plow the thick soil that was in the area. Now they could use this plow and do that. You've heard of John Deere before. Okay. Lastly, changes in transportation. In 1811, the federal government begins building a road to connect Ohio with the East. Now, in 1833, this road is finished, and it's called the National Road, and it was built to connect Maryland to Ohio. And this is going to help factories get their supplies back and forth a lot faster. Lastly, I have Robert Fulton. In 1807, he builds a steamship. Yeah, in those days, states relied on the rivers in their areas, and cities relied on the rivers in their areas to get their supplies from one part of the state to the next. The only way you could do this was load your supplies up on the ship and go downstream. Well, it's hard to come back upstream if you needed to. So Fulton invents the steamship, which uses steam power, and now the ships can go down the river and back up that same river. The first railroads in Tennessee are built, and they connect Nashville to Chattanooga. All right, so again, what we have learned in this lesson is about how machinery changes things in the United States. This time period is called the Industrial Revolution. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have a great day.